we should probably look at a clip, I think. So, first off, we'll look at Gary's clip. Gary, do you want to introduce it for us?
It's a clip from the season finale, as they say in America, of Veep season 4.
Which is a great show.
It's all kicking off, and there's lots of things happening. Pandemonium in a hotel room.
Please, let's have a look at the clip. That was pretty good. Yeah. So, what's it like trying to juggle that many characters and that many camera angles?
For us to answer that question, I'd forgotten the poignancy of the line about how difficult it is to choose between two candidates after what's happened this week. Right? Yeah, I mean this show is unusual in the sense that it's a 28-minute show. Scripts are about 60 pages long, which means the assemblies are about an hour long or so, give or take 5 or 10 minutes. So there's a certain alchemy about when the first thing you have to do is essentially chop your assembly in half. So first thing you do is you take elements of plot out because it's supposed to be a comedy, and then you're left with 35 minutes of funny jokes that make absolutely no sense whatsoever. So then it's like a game of Jenga where you've got to put that story is important, so we put that plot back in, and we sacrifice some jokes, and then we put that plot back in to try and make this arc of the story make some sort of semblance of sense. And then you just it's a game of just trying to squeeze it all in, and I mean that's why it goes at such a hectic rate, because every frame sort of counts. You're trying to squeeze it, and I mean it's interesting watching that back with an audience, because I think there was jokes in there that are brilliantly funny, but no one laughs because there's no time to laugh.
There's no time to just take a breath, is there?
No, just watching it, because there's so much going on. But I mean, it's fantastic. The coverage, everything's shot on 2 cameras, so it does take a lot longer to watch, and I make copious notes as well, so because I just forget what happened 3 takes ago otherwise, and I just find that an easy way of working. And the cast are brilliant because they're just all fantastic. It's a really fantastic ensemble, and so it's a bit of a joy, really. It's a lot of fun to do.
See, because you did sort of basically touch on it there. The pacing of that is what I always love watching your episodes of Veep. You have a real eye for pacing, and whilst everything is at just insane speeds, and you really cram so much in, you're wonderful at just picking those moments of silence, such as Mike at the vending machine. Do you have a processor for it, or is it just instinct, do you think?
Again, because the show changes so much, because of what I've just previously said about, it takes a long time to get to the stage where you've got what you think are the main elements to tell the story. And scenes come in and out all the time, and scenes get put together, intercut, and you've got to try and have all your tricks up your sleeve to sort of try and cram it all in. But I think with this show, and I also worked on, as you did, on the thick of it. The cutting speed is pretty sort of breakneck. So it's important to have moments just to let the audience just. Otherwise, you pin them back so much that. For 28 minutes even, it's just too much, and it needs to just, and also there's tonal rhythms, and just sometimes it's just nice to see. I mean, Mike's the clown of
he really is, isn't he? Yeah.
Of that cast anyway. So any time that you allow him to make funny faces, I mean he's a brilliantly funny guy. So any time to the scene where he puts the money in, and then where he throws the coke out and runs down is very slapstick. So it's quite nice to get, because it's so dialogue heavy, that show. If you can get any bits of other comedy in there as well, it's quite a nice sort of counterweight, really.
So, given that's the process you go through, and this is a question for all of you, how do you approach your assemblies? Do you have a particular method? Do you watch everything first? Do you put something together and then audition takes against it, or is it something else entirely?
I've just changed actually from writing, because I used to try and write everything down. I find I kind of miss a lot. I used to kind of try and make notes, but I couldn't really capture everything I wanted to at writing. So now I actually go back to the old kind of trim method of actually pulling a load of stuff out and kind of making up a select reel and building from that. Because I just find that works for me.
And when I first started editing, after doing the short films and things like that, I did a lot of documentary features, sort of creative documentaries. So I am quite good at going through material, because you might have 230 hours of material or 800 hours to put on. So, but like you, I try and watch as much as I can, but sometimes if there's too much material, you just have to go for maybe the last 2 takes and maybe check the first one just on the off chance. And I do the same thing. I pick all my favourite moments as I'm watching the take. I do it sort of instinctively into an Úna selects. And then if anyone ever saw that, they would be deeply concerned, because I'd have different. But say, for example, if you saw the wide shot, there might be a moment in the wide shot that's just perfect. And then I sort of know, well, that part of the scene is covered, ideally by that moment. And then I'm watching the other takes and just build it. And then at the end, I might always review, if I've finished the scene and we're further down the process and exec notes are coming down back, I might just take a little moment to check my Úna selects in case there's something in there that has more truthfulness or
little gem.
Yeah, that works as a good kind of
visual,
a mine that you can then go back to and go, actually, oh, that's a good
I have to give you a laugh, though. There was only one time in my life that I sent out the weekly assemblies, and accidentally, I don't know how I did it, I sent my Úna selects, and it was for Tom Franklin for the Missing, and he gave me notes on it, and he was like, I really like the way you're not revealing his face, and so he just went with it, even though there's multiple takes of the same moment.
Did you ever tell him?
I did, yeah. I did write to him and say, don't watch it, but no, he did.
Oh, me. I think, we all use similar techniques now, because I don't know, like on Thrones and stuff, you get 5 hours a day or whatever, and I don't know how anyone watches 5 hours and can remember what they saw on minute 22. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how people do it like that, and people can, because Crispin, who I work with on Thrones, he still uses that method, and I'm always amazed that he can remember. But I do what these guys do, go through the dailies and just put all the bits that I like the look of down into select reels or performances. Sometimes there'll be a performance that you just like, that's it, and I'll just put that in and build the whole scene around that, and maybe it'll be wrong in the end, but it's something to hang your hat on when you've got 5 hours of material to deal with. You're looking for that moment, I am anyway, for where you go, okay, I've got a way into this scene now, because it's just like, I don't know what to do, and then finally something will happen. Something will click. Yeah, or failing that, we use script sync a lot on Game of Thrones, because people on the team so just cut a sync, using the chosen takes, and then see, and then take it from there. It's mood based for me as well. Sometimes if I'm not really, I don't know, a bit grumpy or whatever, I will just, I'm paid to be there. And then some other days you feel like you've got some good ideas, and the other days you feel like you don't know what you're doing. So does everyone? Yeah,
it's when you're exhausted, you're like, I won't attack that scene.
On a 5-day week, I think only 3 days I feel like I know what I'm doing.
But you've got to use the other 2 days well, though, don't you? So what can I used to use that for hacking it in.
I do have a Bluetooth wireless keyboard that I've taken to coming back onto the sofa with me. So that's doing my select reels from them.
That's something that I learned from you. I have a Bluetooth mouse and I do the same thing. I like sitting on the sofa.
Do the select reels from the sofa.
Doesn't a little nod off you sitting on the
sofa? No, that's just thinking time.
So when your eyes are closed, you're just thinking.
Yeah.
I would say that actually, because sometimes if I cycle to work, I could have the best idea ever on my bike of how to tackle a scene that you really were struggling with the day before.
Yeah. Mine's the shower.
Is the shower, I
think a lot of people are the shower.
I find scene cards. Sorry, I was going to say I find the scene cards invaluable in terms of I have most of my ideas looking at those rather than at the Avid actually. In terms of like, so actually that would you just kind of think of it in a different way, and it keeps you fresh, and you kind of find it on film more than TV, but you kind of get so familiar with the material, you kind of need a way of getting away from it and kind of looking at it in a different way.
I was going to say there's certain lines in a scene that you're never going to use on a wide shot, and there's certain, if it gets to the apex of the scene, you want to be in tight. So I think when I watch rushes, and you get more familiar with the scene, the more you watch it. I mean, there's little notes I make because you know that there's certain lines that you're going to use it from 1 or 2 slates. So that's an easier way of knowing where you're going to pick the line from.
Yeah.
But sometimes, I mean, things like, you might be in type, but there's a delivery, if it's a funny version. I mean, the thing on Veep, where it's a much more messy looking show, you can get away with shoehorning in. And we do it all the time. You cross the line and you do, it can look quite messy, and that is very useful in terms of getting stuff in that ordinarily it'd be really difficult to do.
Those sort of moments just feel like they're grabbed, and
because that's part of the sort of quasi nature of the show. So that's a bit of a cheat, but
So, because I do a similar thing. Like, there are certain lines that I know I want on a certain angle. I'll go to those first. Does anyone else go backwards through the takes? Like start at take 4 and go back?
Yeah, I've started doing that.
Yeah.
I find that better. Then you're kind of auditioning all the others against
exactly.
that.
You sort of think, if this is the last one, that's the one the director thinks is best. So
you take one.
I'm old school. We start at the beginning.
You're right. Start back.
I sometimes work backwards in my assembly, because you always go from, most people do it anyway. But I find the front of whatever you're working on always gets the most attention by, as you go through, you sort of, I don't know, it just feels like the end doesn't always get as much attention. Sometimes my first set of notes I work backwards.
Of an episode or a scene?
Yeah, and I've never seen anyone else do that actually, but I find it, because I get bored quite easily as well, so I hate kind of like, the set of notes, here we go, whatever. I like to, work backwards and then watch it again and then sort of see
Is this
what
after you have it all assembled?
Yeah, just sometimes, I suppose I do all sorts of things to keep myself
fresh
and interested.
It's like eating your pudding first. Isn't it? Basically, you're a big kid, aren't you?
Yeah. Square peg, round hole.
And there's a scene that I could recently, which I know is just sort of very classic advice, but if there are any students here, there was one scene for The Crown, and at the end of this particular scene, she was going to get sort of boxed in by the advice of all her by the advisors, and so we did withhold then the big extreme close up until the end, so that the claustrophobia of the conversation was sort of more psychological editing, so that you deliberately withhold whatever is the shot. But I mean, that's very classic. That's not.
It always works.
It does. It
works.
But as sometimes a scene might be approached as an editor. You approach it from the psychological point of view of what the character's going through and what it's actually about for her or him.
Definitely, I do every line like that.
Yeah.
Like, why are they saying?
Why are they saying that? Yeah. What's
and
actually
then
going
you
on?
it and you make this terribly long version of the scene because you've really thought it every moment, but actually you've infused it with all of that intention, and then you just crush it.
It's hanging on to all
and
that
it does
richness.
work. You do feel
definitely
it.
works. You try and sort of think what the characters, what the subtext is.
Correct.
To what they're saying.
To what they're saying, which is more important.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.